Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Randy Goss from the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department. Randy, we appreciate you filling in today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
I didn't know quite what to say this morning, so I brought my police officer Bible. And all I can say this morning is that some time ago, you know, I really didn't know God, and I said, God, if you're really real, you'll do something with my life, because the way it is right now, it's not very good. And at that moment, I said, God, just go ahead and kill me. Just go ahead and take my life. And not even knowing what I was saying. And the Word of God says that whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. They shall not only be saved, they shall be delivered. They shall be set free. They shall be healed. They shall be redeemed. They shall be forgiven. That by the blood of Jesus Christ, we have everything that we need in this word right here. And you cannot govern. George Washington said this, you cannot even govern without the Bible and prayer. So I just encourage you today to get into the word and to pray. And Father, I pray in Jesus' name, Lord, that truth and justice will come from this platform today. Father, that your word will come forth with power and might and demonstration and truth. And I just praise your name for what you're going to do in this place and what you have done over the past 20 years that I've been here. And I thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Randy. Agenda announcements, Mr. Maines.
Your Honor, we do not have any agenda announcements today. I would like to mention, though, just a word of thanks. We've had some ice last night and this morning, and it got pretty tough down here. And I know that as you all came in, you saw that our paths have been cleared. And I just want to thank David Phillips and his guys, his crew. They were out here, got here a little bit before 6, and they were out there shoveling the stuff away from the door and making sure that the building was accessible.
Yeah, I did, and we thank you very much. Be sure and thank all your folks, David. We do appreciate all of that. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of January the 25th.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Under proclamations and resolutions, our first resolution is the National Wear Red Day, and I know there were supposed to be a number of folks that were going to make it down, and they called this morning and said they weren't sure they were going to be able to make it, and so I told them, well, you can watch our streaming video, and we'll read it into the record, so I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation or the resolution into the record. Whereas heart disease is the #1 killer of women, and one in 4 American women dies of heart disease, and whereas many women do not know that heart disease is a woman's problem and they do not take it seriously, and whereas the risk factors for heart disease are smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, overweight, obesity, physical inactivity, diabetes, and a family history of early heart disease and age, and whereas keeping women healthy and promoting awareness of women's health issues, including heart health, is an important responsibility and depends on the actions of many organizations and groups in our community. And whereas women's health remains a priority for families, communities, as well as government, and our commitment to keeping women healthy is stronger than ever. And whereas the National Wear Red Day campaign and the red dress symbol are building awareness of women's heart disease risks and empowering them to reduce their risk and prevent heart disease, and whereas Tarrant County women need to take action to make heart health a priority for themselves and their families, become aware of their heart disease risk, and take action to control that risk, now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize February 4th, 2011 as National Wear Red Day in Tarrant County. And further, we encourage the citizens of Tarrant County to work together promoting and improving the health of women by increasing awareness and understanding of women and heart disease. In witness whereof, we've heretofore set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this first day of February 2011, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously, and we will get that resolution to them over the next couple of days. Next, I believe, Commissioner Brooks, you have a proclamation.
I have two proclamations, well, a proclamation and a memorial resolution, both for ratification. The proclamation is in honor of Dr. James I. Cash, Jr., one of Fort Worth and Tarrant County's favorite sons. He was the first African-American athlete to play in the Southwest Conference, went on from there to become dean of the Harvard Business School, and serves on the boards of several major corporations, including Walmart, General Electric, the Chubb Group of insurance companies. Quite a young man. This proclamation was presented this past Saturday. The second is a memorial resolution honoring the life and contributions of Lionel E. Cooper, one of the first African-American police officers in the city of Fort Worth and the first African-American constable for Tarrant County. I move ratification of both of those items already presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have a couple of awards that we're going to recognize and present to Judge King as well as Judge Quentin McGowan. Doug Harmon is here.
Hiding in the back.
Hiding in the back.
Doug's trying to discern him.
Well, I was going to say, that didn't look like Doug in his hat, so,
Changed, doesn't he?
and I couldn't see you underneath the hat, so. Ernie, welcome.
Doug got snowed in. What an honor it is to be here again this year to recognize two gentlemen that don't just talk about J.D., preserving our rich Western heritage. They live it every day. They have for decades. And each year score go in the classroom in a opportunity to educate children. They have no curriculum anymore in the schools about our local history. They learn nothing about chuck wagons, Chisholm Trail, and a lot of things that made our community so great. And so we're just so delighted to have the opportunity to recognize these two gentlemen for their outstanding service. And I think y'all have a couple of things y'all want to present them.
You bet. We have,
You want to do that?
we'll both go down there, and Judge King received the Trail Boss Award, and I believe Judge McGowan, the Legends. Y'all turned around here, and we'll present you with your spurs and your, we'll see if the camera's in its usual form. Worked out pretty good. Love to have y'all make a few comments if you'd like to.
Comments I would like to make, please.
This is probably more welcome than when I come up here at budget time. I would just want to say thank you for this recognition. I am so honored to join another previous recipient of this award, Judge Vandergriff. And just, you know, what we are is a large part of what went before us. And what makes Fort Worth a very, very, very special place is the hard work of the people that for over 150 years came before us here. And it's just to honor that memory and to help people understand, as Jim Lane likes to say, you know, how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And so in that spirit, I receive and thank you for this.
Thank you, Judge.
And I would certainly echo Judge King's comments, but also really use this to acknowledge the work that Ernie Horn and the Score a Goal in the Classroom program does. And I think as all of us work toward expanding or reintroducing local history curriculum back into our schools, we need to do whatever we can to support that. But thank you all very much. And thank you, Ernie.
Both of these gentlemen are sixth-generation Texans and have worked tirelessly, really, on history for not only Tarrant County, Fort Worth, but also for the state of Texas, and we appreciate very much your service in those arenas, and thank you very much for helping to preserve
And
the
thank
history.
Ernie Horn for all that he does.
Now, Ernie is just, he is definitely a tireless supporter of the youth and the kids, and we appreciate very much all you do, Ernie. Thanks for being here today. Just couldn't see you underneath that hat. Next, we have, again, one of our favorite things to do, and that's employee recognition. A little thin out there today. Can't imagine why, but we do appreciate all of you all who braved the weather and were able to make it in. We're going to start with our 5-year employees, and as I call your name, please stand, and then at the end we'll give you the recognition you deserve. First, our 5-year employees is Jamie Amline from the Sheriff's Communications Department, Michelle Amline from Juvenile Services, Sisters, Brian Blackington, Information Technology, Robert Brown, Sheriff's Courts, Robert, Dana Caldwell, Sheriff Booking, Kevin Carpenter, Sheriff Confinement. No, keep standing. Get excited here, I tell you what. Jose Cisneros, Transportation Services, Melody Cordell, Public Health, Aaron Carey, Juvenile Services, Terry Dooling, CSCD, Tammy Ferris, Public Health. I will say this much, at least when I mess up the names this morning, there's not as many of them.
They might be here.
Nobody to call you on it.
Yu Mei He, CSCD, Janice Hudler, Public Health, Kanika Lee, CSCD, Linda Lytle, Auditor's Office, Alan McKinney, Sheriff Confinement, Clarabeth Montez, Sheriff Booking, Girolamo Montoya, Juvenile Services, Carol Murley, Juvenile Services, Rihanna Rouse, Public Health, David Reynolds, Sheriff Confinement,
David?
Jerry Upchurch, Sheriff Confinement, Sharon Walker Alexander, Sheriff Confinement, Walter West, Sheriff Auto Theft Task Force, Ronald Wilkinson, Facilities Management. See how it's shoveling the... Alicia Williams, Sheriff Confinement. These are our 5-year employees. Let's give them a hand. Now for our 10-year employees. Teresa Anderson, Sheriff Confinement. Kimberly D'Avignon, District Attorney. Lance Deegan, Sheriff Confinement. All right. Bradley Gatewood, Juvenile Services. Roberto Garcia, Sheriff Confinement. John Holland, Precinct 1 Maintenance. Sammy Hurental, Precinct 2 Maintenance. Mike Jennings, Juvenile Services. Skane Johnson, Juvenile Services. Robert Knowles, Sheriff Confinement. Bob Lewis, Juvenile Services. Catherine Martinez, Justice of the Peace, Precinct 3. James Morris, Sheriff Confinement. Ryan Scribner, Information Technology. Marianne Cerna, Domestic Relations. Perry Sherwood, Precinct 2 Maintenance. Peggy Sherman, County Clerk. Jane Strittmatter, Domestic Relations. Nancy Swindle, Texas AgriLife Extension. Michael Tomankara, Sheriff Confinement. Shirley Tebay, Sheriff Confinement. Crystal Thomas, Sheriff Confinement. Patrick Truax, Sheriff Confinement. Michael Welborn, Sheriff North Patrol. Carl Williams, Sheriff Confinement. Terrell Williams, Sheriff Confinement. These are our 10-year employees. Let's give them a hand. Fifteen-year employees. Shelley Alexander, Juvenile Services. David Bailey, Sheriff Booking. Heidi Kading, Sheriff Confinement. Nicola Fox, Sheriff Booking. Tracy Hunter, Sheriff Confinement. Judy Ketchum, Resource Connection. Jill Patton, Information Technology. Dixie Stoller, Public Health. Renee Tidwell, County Auditor. And Judge Molly Westfall, the 371st District Court. These are our 15-year employees. Let's give them a hand. And now for our 20-plus years, we will begin with Sachan Bhatt, CSCD Misdemeanor Courts, 20 years. She started out, I'm going to still kind of go through a little bit of these just because they're 20 years plus. Started out in MHMR and then went to the CSCD, is currently the senior court officer for Judge Mills. Said just absolutely loves working for Judge Mills, proud to be a part of law enforcement. Really likes working with the people. She said CSCD is like a family where everyone kind of helps one another out. Next is Chelsea Blacklock, Sheriff Booking for 20 years. Chelsea started out in the Cold Springs area and then moved to Green Bay, is now in charge of, or is now in the tunnel control area, and I'm fixing to get a message. Likes the job, says there's basically no 2 days alike, really enjoys dealing with the people that she has an opportunity to deal with. Said the time has really flown by and it's been a great place to work. Next is Commissioner Roy Brooks. All right. Commissioner Brooks started as the Precinct 1 Administrator and served there until he was elected Commissioner in 2004. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, he, kind of thought about it and then gave me a couple things. Then he came in and he said, what's really memorable is the fact that it took me 3 elections And he said, I remember being able to cast that first vote as commissioner. He went through the primary, through a runoff, through the general election, and then finally was elected, got sworn in, and got to make that first vote. I asked him what he liked most. He said it was most interesting work that he could ever imagine doing. He said, I like feeling like that I'm solving life-affecting problems in the things that we do up here. It's a very fulfilling work. Commissioner Brooks, prior to coming to work for the county, or maybe even while he was working with the county, served 6 years on the city council in the city of Forest Hill, and is also a past president of the National Association of Black County Officials, is very well respected nationally in our NACO Association. Said that basically public service he felt like was a life calling and something that we needed to impress more upon our children and upon the kids that we come in contact with. Roy, it's been a pleasure and a privilege to serve with you the 14 years I've been on this court, and I know the folks of Tarrant County appreciate the 20 years of service you've given them.
Thank you.
He's been a good neighbor thus far.
It's been a privilege to represent the people of Precinct 8.
Next is Mike Carmer with the district clerk's office. There's Mike. Actually, he's celebrating 20 years, but he's actually spent 28 years with the county. He started in the sheriff's office with Lon Evans and worked there from 77 to 1985 and left for a while and then actually worked with the Fort Worth PD for a while then and came back to the county in 1991 and has been here ever since. He's now a law clerk in the felony division, was assigned to various courts as needed in the beginning, but just recently has been reassigned to the third floor where he now takes care of, I guess, new complaints that come in from the area. When I asked him about the more memorable moments, it was the hostage situation and then also the shootings that have occurred within the county. Watching the amazing growth in technology in doing their work. Basically, he said moving from writing in the docket books to using computers. One of the other things that he said, when we moved the Court of Appeals from into the Justice Center, there was a time when we had the hanging of the pictures. And his great-grandfather served 32 years as Chief Justice. And so he had an opportunity at that point in time to be a part of that process and to give a speech about his great-grandfather, and he said that was one of the more memorable moments that he'd had in the time that he'd been with the county. When I asked him what he liked most, he said the work was steady. He said crime just doesn't stop. It was good benefits, the people he's had a chance to work for. And he said, we constantly have attorneys coming in here praising Tarrant County for the way we do our business. And these are folks who've had a chance to work in other counties around the Metroplex. And he said that they really couldn't find a better place to do business than in Tarrant County. He appreciates the support he gets and the help for doing his job. Mike, we appreciate very much the 28 years of service you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Jay Dickens with the Public Health. Jay spent 20 years, has been there, started as a public health, environmental health, does inspections for restaurants, grocery stores, daycare centers. When I asked him about a more memorable moment, he said one time he was called out to help with Haltom City, and there was this house where the owner had passed away, and there were over 50 cats. He said we donned our hazmat suits to head into the house to clean up after that. He said it's always something brand new. He said he hopes to put in another 20 years of service to Tarrant County. So if you see Jay in Public Health over the next couple of days, congratulate him on his 20 years of service. Next is Carmen English from the Sheriff's Department, booking for 20 years. Started out at Cold Springs, was promoted to security control, then to the release desk. when I asked him about a more memorable moment, it was when he was on patrol. He said he actually had an accident that happened right in front of him, and it was these two elderly women. Said actually the mother was 80 years old, her daughter was 60, and they were just devastated over the fact that they had had this accident. And he helped them, helped them figure out, what was going to happen to the car. And he said, I just cannot tell you how much, how appreciative they were. And he said it really gave me a good feeling about being able to work with them. He said, I love the interaction of with the public. His wife actually works for the bond desk, but they didn't meet at the county. They actually met somewhere else, and as they were talking, they found out that they both worked for Tarrant County. So as you see Carmen, please congratulate him on his 20 years of service. Next is Pam Krim. 20 years of service, works in the 348th District Court. She actually had worked in the clerk's office for 19 years and then retired. And then when Judge Womack's court coordinator, Lee, left, she came back and is now serving as her court coordinator. When I asked her about the more memorable moment, she said, it used to be that the judges would come in and, they would kid around a lot. We'd have a lot of fun. They might be bringing in rubber chickens and doing things along that type of lines. She says, I remember those days. She said, I absolutely love the people that I have a chance to work with. She says, feels like she's working for the best judge of the lot. And Dana, we appreciate you being here this morning.
And I didn't know she'd be here.
I would not have expected anything other than Dana to be here. Dana is one of our hardest working judges, and we appreciate very much, Pam, you coming back to work with Dana, and Dana, we appreciate everything that you do. Pam, thank you for the 20 years of service you give us. Don't push it. Next is Chuck Mcmillan, and Chuck is with the district attorney's office and called earlier and said he could not get out of his neighborhood. He works in the appellate section and had worked under Chris Marshall, is now the chief of that area. He said, I really love some of the cases that I've had an opportunity to try. He feels like the county has been very fortunate and that the employees realize that, because we always focus on the citizens and the employees that we try to support. He's really enjoyed working for the county and has always tried to do the best he could. So as you see Chuck, please congratulate him on his 20 years of service. Next is Liz Mcmillan from Juvenile Services, 20 years. Liz came here from Houston, started as a liaison officer, is currently serving as intake officer for the JJAEP, which basically, if you don't know, those are really the worst of the worst. She said, when I asked her about a more memorable moment, she said, there's been many of them, but she said, you'll work with the children, and some of these kids, you finally see them break. You finally see them, the light go on, and you see them just kind of break down, and you know at that point in time that they're really looking for someone to reach out and to help them. What she loves the most is the consistency. Could always count on the county to watch out for us. She said, I love the department and the people that she's had a chance to work with. When I asked her if there was anything else, she says, if I ever stop being touched by some of these folks and having a tear in my own eye, then she said, I'll know it's time to retire. So over the next couple of days, if you see Liz, thank her for her 20 years of service with Tarrant County. Next is Cloyd Polk, the Sheriff, North Patrol. Sergeant, has been in with us for 20 years. Started out in the Green Bay facility, then moved to patrol and has been there ever since. Made sergeant in 2003. His more memorable moments were not good ones. They were not happy moments. He said, I worked the helicopter crash, and he said, then I also worked the shooting for the Fort Worth officer, Hank Nava. When I asked him what he liked most, he said, I enjoy very much the work that I get a chance to do working with people. He said the freedom to feel like that, in patrol, he said it's my area and I can do what I feel like's best for his area. And I think that's something that, he very much appreciated. Cloyd, we appreciate very much the time and service you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Mike Adair, Chief Assistant Investigation Area. Actually, he's been with us for 31 years, even though it says 25. He left at one point and then came back to the area. He worked for Arlington PD before coming to the county. Started in 79, then left in 85, and then came back in 1986. Then in 88, he became an assistant commander of the Narcotics Task Force, and then in 96, he moved back to the investigative area in the DA's office. When I asked him about his more memorable moments, he said it was working with special crimes. He worked with the feds on a bookmaker case here in this area, and then also in getting the Narcotics Task Force started. What he likes most is working with the staff and with the lawyers and the support that the county gives to its employees. When I asked him if there was anything else, he said he really enjoyed his time working not only for Tim Curry, but he said when I worked with the Arlington Police Department, he had a chance to work with Judge Vandergrift first over there, and then here as Judge Vandergrift served as the county judge. He said, I really have, over this last couple of years, enjoyed the seamless transition from Tim to Joe in the district attorney's office. Mike, we appreciate very much the 31 years of service you've given to Tarrant. Next is Cindy Flowers with the district attorney's office. Cindy started out in the district clerk's office, stayed there in the civil area for about 15 years, and then in 2001 came to the grand jury area. She said, I feel like I've grown up in the county. She said, I started when I was 19. I said, when you tell me that, then they're going to be able to figure out how old you are. She says, it's all right. She said, I love the fact that, the friends and the benefits that we get from the county. She said, the time's gone by pretty quick, but she said, I hope I'm here for a long time longer. If you see Cindy, thank her for her 25 years of service to Tarrant County. And finally today, Phyllis Smith with County Criminal Court Number 1, Judge Hill. Phyllis started in deeds records under Madrian Huffman, then went to the front office and then moved over to the County Clerk Criminal Court Number 1 and has been there from since 1986, is now the coordinator over there. She said, and I wouldn't have really understood what she was saying had I not had a chance to be commissioner for a few years, but she said it used to be that there were a number of us who would come in early and would play games. Now, in our garage, it's not unusual at all for a bunch of the guys to end up in there 30 minutes early, and you'll catch them playing dominoes in there for 30 or so minutes until it's time to go to work. But she said there used to be a group of them that would come into the court area and they'd play cards, and she said there's a number of those ladies we still play cards together, in the evenings or on the weekends now. So she said, I remember that. She said, what I like most is the great family feeling that it's not a job, but it's something that she looks forward to each day. She said, when I come to work, I feel like I come to work and I have a purpose for what I'm doing. She said her job has always been fun, everyone's always nice, and everyone always tries to help each other out. She said Judge Hill is an absolutely fantastic boss. And that she said, when I look back over my time at work, I can never think of a bad time at work. She says, I plan on being here until y'all decide to get rid of me. So if you see Phyllis, tell her she's going to be here for a long time because we don't plan on ever getting rid of her. And thank her for her 30 years of service. Now, I understand that right after I announced the 5-year group, Ron Wilkinson walked in. So, Ron, stand up. Welcome. Thank you for your 5 years of service. Let's give him a round of applause. Can I have someone else walk in that was recognized that I missed? Stand on up. What was your name?
Carl Williams.
Carl, we appreciate very much you coming in and being a part today. So let's give everybody another round of applause. 820 years of service, not counting those extra years of those people that, for some reason, we don't give them credit. 504C, we have refreshments back there. Eat heartily, because we have a lot. So again, thank you all very much for your service.
Did you tell Wilder to go in there?
Looks like we have done Mr. Wilkinson here today. Yep. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Why don't we go back up and do a receive and file on, did we do a receive and file on the presentation of the Heritage Awards?
I don't think so.
I'll move approval to receive.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. And then do we normally receive and file our employee recognition? Would y'all
Yes.
feel better about it if we did
Yes.
that?
Move
Okay.
approval to receive and file the employee recognition.
We'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two additional items this morning. The first, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court accept a check in the amount of $2,769 from the Texas Conference of Urban Counties for overpayment for full participant status of the ACMS Phase 1 project. Let me explain what that is real quick. We went into Phase 1 project. There were two major players, that being Dallas and Tarrant County, plus 4 other counties that were just planning partners with us. During that time, we had an additional county that came on, and they had to pay their fee also as a planning partner, and because of that, we're receiving a refund, a partial refund of the monies that we've paid to CUC.
Excellent. Return on our investment already. Move approval.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, and members of the court, on item number 2, this is something that we've been working on for a while, and let me say that we have had been contacted by different community leaders as related to the naming of the building which the Public Health Department is in. There was a groundswell to ask the court to name that building the Dr. Marion J. Brooks Building. Unfortunately, we don't own that building, and that building is owned by the hospital district. But what we're seeking now is that the Commissioners Court pass a resolution which urges the Hospital District Board of Managers to name the building in which the Tarrant County Public Health Department is located as the Dr. Marion J. Brooks Building.
Move for approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Roy, I know you're very proud of that.
I am very proud and grateful to my colleagues for this recognition. GK says that there was a groundswell of community support. Well, that didn't come from me, because I didn't know about this until last Thursday when he called me just before he put it on the agenda. So he did a good job of hiding it from me. When he called me, I was speechless. It is a magnificent honor to my father's legacy and to my family, and should the hospital district do what we have asked them to do, we will be very humbled and honored.
It's my understanding that it will be on the hospital district's agenda this in February now. I'd like to echo the fact that Commissioner Brooks did not know anything about it. In fact, when I talked to him about it, I was on my cell phone, and quite frankly, I thought I hit a dead spot because I wasn't getting any response on the other side. And it was a quiet moment, but a very great moment. I would say also that this is February is National Black History Month, and it is also Dr. Brooks' birthday month, which is February 15th.
He would have been 90 years old on February the 15th had he lived.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next is the District Attorney's Office.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under item C2, we're requesting authority for the District Attorney's Office to pursue appellate options with regard to this particular lawsuit.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Let's go in.
Good morning. I believe we have 3 items this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our second item, we're asking the court to approve out-of-class pay extension for the county clerk's office. This request, is outlined in your communique, is retroactive to January the 17th. The details are outlined in your court communique. The extension, if approved, will be through February 4th, which I believe is this Friday, my daughter's birthday. And the impact to the general fund is $163.20.
Move approval. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Just slip that little...
I did. She's probably not looking. She's probably still asleep.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote.
She's
Motion passes
16. What do you
unanimously.
expect? She's not going to get up if she doesn't have
It's
to.
a snow day, right?
It's a snow day. That's right. And then our third and final item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of paternal benefits for probate court 1. Again, probate court is requesting this waiver. The impact to the general fund is approximately $3,800, with this amount to be split between the general fund and the probate contribution fund.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. New, come on down.
Margie Drake.
Hi, Judge and Commissioners. Ms. Brewer wasn't able to get here today from the weather, so I am her stand-in for G1 anyway. We're requesting interim funding for financings for Ryan White Treatment Extension Act for Parts A and B.
Move approval.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? In the past, we have extended, because we just hadn't gotten the federal funds, but we felt pretty assured that those were coming. Is that what this is, or is this something?
Because
do we
of the
feel is safe about?
Yes, continuing resolution goes on, and so as long as the federal government's under continuing resolution, we don't get our contracts usually until after the start date. They'll give us little bits and pieces, so we'll probably get about a third of our funding. Part A starts on March 1. Part B starts on April 1. So what the Part B for the $5,000 is just for one of our contractors it is for a second-year option for one of our contractors.
So the 5,000 is the Part B?
Yes, sir. And the 185 is for Part A.
And the 185 for Part A, is that, how long of a period is that extension for?
60 days.
So in effect, I mean, right now, the continuing resolution is through March 31st.
Well, we expect to have our funding in before March 31st.
The $185,000 is for a 60-day period so that we can continue the funding until we finalize the contracts with the federal government.
I know, I understand that, but the problem is that the federal government is under a continuing resolution until, I believe, the end of March, which means that after that, if they should choose to cut anything or not continue to fund, then that would be the time that they would do that.
There is a possibility that we'll get reduced funding this year, and we have taken that into consideration.
Okay.
Our planning council has, been working different scenarios based on level funding, an increase, not likely, and then a couple decreased scenarios. So we are prepared for that for the planning process. I really do think that there is a possibility we'll get less funding. However, when we get our funding, we'll get bits and pieces because of the continuing resolution. We'll usually get what they consider a formula amount, so kind of what the known factor is. And then we'll get our supplemental award, what we competed on the national level, on our Part A. So I think that we'll have all of our funding in. Actually, we'll have the biggest chunk of our funding in within the first 60 days. Last year, when we had this funding, I don't believe we got our second pot of money in until July.
Why don't we suggest this, so the court would approve this, but then, Margie, if you'll monitor this very closely, and as soon as you hear one way or the other, we'll come back to court and modify this if we have to.
Right.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Who's doing 2? I guess you are.
I'll do 2 real quick. Members of the court, if we could go to public health, item number 2, we're requesting that the court approve a contract with Texas Engineering Extension Service for the provision of disaster preparedness training for public health staff and emergency response partners in Tarrant County. This is a requirement for us. There is funds available in the 2 funding sources that are listed in your court communication.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. So this, again, this is a grant-funded deal, but we've gotten those funds.
Yes, we do.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I do want us to monitor that stuff pretty closely and be sure that if we are advancing funds, that, possibly what we may be advancing later on if we get money, I want to make sure that whatever we're advancing, we can use the future money to reimburse ourselves for it, even if there are expenditure reductions in that deal.
Absolutely. The first payment out of those grants, whenever we get them, is a reimbursement to the county, so we get our money back.
So there's no chance that they could say, okay, right now we're reimbursing all areas that we've had in the past that we feel like we're going to get money from. But if they in the future say, well, we're not going to give money, we're going to eliminate the funding for this particular segment of the Ryan White deal. Mm-hmm. If we've expended money in advance, can we take future receipts and reimburse it for something that they eliminated eventually?
Yes, what happens is that during the planning phase, the subcontractors will enter into contracts with them. We'll know our funding. We only contract out that money that we get. So when we get it piecemeal, we issue contracts in piecemeal, and then we'll do contract revisions for the full amount. So we will not contract for more than what we have. So this interim funding is just to pay for salaries for employees, me and my staff, and the planning council, and it was to get some interim and some other contracts that we have, but we will not issue our full contracts until we have our full funding.
Okay.
And when GK's right, we do everything on reimbursement grants, so they spend the money, we reimburse them, and we won't let it go to the end and be out any money.
Thank you. Thanks, Marty. Mr. Beecham.
Your Honor, the members of the court, we have just one item for your consideration this morning. That is a bid award recommendation for our bid number 2011-021. This signing of contract for the purchase of pickup trucks. Our recommendation will be toward a per enterprise basis, including the optional price list, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors that meet specifications as shown in your court communique.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Do we have green or hybrid vehicles?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Lamb.
Thank you, Judge. I'm here this morning to request that Commissioners Court approve a renewal agreement with the City of Arlington related to improvements to Collins Street, which was included in the 2006 Transportation Bond Program. This is a section of Collins that's south of Interstate 20. It extends from Southeast Parkway to just south of Mansfield Webb Road.
Move for approval.
Go ahead.
Move for
Approved. Seconded. Any discussion?
What is the reason for the renewal?
We started the contract to take care of design and utility relocation. We've completed that. Now we've moved into construction. So it's an annual contract, so once a year we have to come back.
Okay.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Any appointments? You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Banias.
Your Honor, members of the court, we are not going to do item A this week. We'll hold that over for next week. We can go to item B. This is the legislative issues. Mr. Mendez has included in your packet a memorandum as far as activities of the legislature last week. The one thing I would like to point out is the Senate has also released their proposed budget, their first shot at it. It's supposed to be somewhat kinder and gentler than the House version, but it's still very draconian. So I'll try to answer any questions that you may have.
When do we expect to get the feedback that we requested from the department heads and elected officials?
I sent that out last Tuesday after court. We've had some feedback. I will go ahead and communicate with them again to see if we can expedite that. And I'll just send it out again and ask them to return it in a week or so.
And then we also got I'd given you a little, the House Republican Task Force Study Committee, or the joint, I think it was actually a joint committee, that looked at certain cuts on a federal level.
Yes.
I would like for us to pass that out also and just say.
I'll be more than happy to make that available. I'll make that whole document available. And I know that you had highlighted one area in community development.
CDBG was reduced. Is the $4.5 billion that they talk about reducing CDBG, is that all of CDBG?
Eliminating the program. The more likely you're going to see 96 cuts.
Chris, you're going to need to get up here.
The Republican proposal eliminates CDBG, but we've been in contact with our representatives in Washington. We're looking more at a 9 to 11% cut in CDBG this next year. And in 2012, we're looking at up to 25% or possible elimination.
If it went back to the 2008 spending levels, what kind of a percentage reduction would that mean? Do you know?
About 25%.
Okay.
We all need to remember that CDBG funds are used with the smaller cities in each of our precincts to do infrastructure improvement. And that's something that the Mayor's Council helps us, guides us into the distribution of those funds. So it would be a significant impact on our smaller communities in Tarrant County.
Most of those projects, most of those particular projects are where the cities contract out with private contractors to do the work.
We contract with the private contractors, but they're all, we spend about $3 million a year of CDBG for the contracts. The cities put in about $5 million a year. But on CDBG, we keep approximately 18% for admin. We administer the public works projects, our rehab projects, plus our continuing care. We have 18 grants that we administer on behalf of agencies within Tarrant County, and we spread our CDBG admin. We do the planning for all our grants in our department using CDBG. So it's spread among about 30 grants.
And you're saying the total, would that be about $8 million when you add the city's contribution to our contribution?
Yes.
Does that include the ones that we do North Richland Hills, which really has their own?
Right, it does include them.
Are you including that in that $3 million?
Yes, they get about $325,000, and Grapevine gets about $300,000, and Mansfield gets about $250,000. So, and we just roll that into our program, but we allow them to pick and choose what they want to use it for, and we administer it on their behalf.
Okay, so that $8 million is basically what the cities and us put into it,
Right.
and then most of those contracts all of those contracts are to private contractors.
Yes, they are. So,
in the area. Okay.
Your Honor, I'd be more than happy to answer any additional, or attempt to answer any additional questions. Thank you. That's all we have at this time, Your Honor.
The Commissioners' Court will now recess its open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under Sections 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Code. Having returned from closed session, there being no business to attend to at this time, we are adjourned.
Ray, could I see you and Marvin for a minute in my office, please?
Yeah, I just got